I'm just going to share with you a very quick romp through a handful of recurrent notions and questions that continue to inform and inspire for us at Krannert Center at the University of Illinois the imagination of a future companion facility to the existing Krannert Center. And I will keep these comments as fully as possible confined to being relevant to the creation of new work, but I've got to confess that it's hard for me to stay that confined about almost anything. First, I'd like to encourage us, as we think about all these things today and tomorrow, to kind of zoom out and keep in mind the perspective of a national/international creativity grid of places and facilities and people who collectively are capable of nurturing and advancing and sustaining the infrastructure of creative resources for these very special beings on our planet that we call artists. And I say that in part because I don't think that, for example, when we think about the future of Krannert Center, we try to think about what it is that Krannert Center at the University of Illinois, a micro-urban population center like Champaign, Urbana, can contribute in a complementary fashion to the multitudes of other places and institutions and facilities, et cetera, that that exist and will come into existence. I know that I've hung around scientists and others in academia way too long, but because I find myself thinking about how do we solve big problems. The driver in almost all of my thinking today and all my work seems to be driven by wondering what the big problems are. Aesthetically, experientially, socially, technologically, pedagogically, environmentally, and what are the big barriers that exist to more robust collaboration, to fuller engagement, to unleashing a greater collective imagination. And these thoughts are also informed by, I feel very privileged to say this, these thoughts are also informed by multiple experiences with astonishing artists like Ralph Lemon and Marianne Weems of the Builders Association and many others, B.B. Miller, Michael Rouse, and a long history at Krannert Center at the University of Illinois of commitment to faculty artists and to students, and also in more recent years, a very clear commitment to local artists who do not have a university affiliation. And just an additional word or two about Krannert Center. Thanks to Tom, you have a little bit of a sense of what Krannert Center is. There are actually 4 indoor theaters. In addition to the 3 theaters that Tom pointed out, we also have a 200-seat or so black box theater, full array of production shops, rehearsal spaces, classroom spaces, etc. But I would encourage everybody to think about facilities like Krannert Center and the Hop and others. Krannert Center, the Hopkins Center, these are institutions. They are only partially buildings. And therefore they are only partially limited by their physical beings, so to speak. They are more than buildings. They are ideas and spirits. When we started envisioning Krannert North, this companion facility basically designed to extend the existing footprint of Krannert Center 100% further north, so that the existing Krannert Center could represent in a way the art of the past and the Krannert North, the art of the future. It's really way more than just about being facilities. It's about ideas behind those facilities and core values and spirits that exist within them. By the way, when we started talking about Krannert North, when people like chancellors and presidents and trustees would ask me what the price tag was, I would very reassuringly say, no problem, not a penny more than $500 million, which was a very reassuring response, but always drew a good chuckle. And they could sense the playfulness because, of course, 500 million may or may not be the price tag, but it's about an aspirational scale that we felt was also important to communicate. Ideas that inform our thinking about the future are high contrast juxtapositions between the formal, things like the formal, the informal, the grandly spectacular, the intimately scaled, utter reality and utter virtuality, the familiar, the unfamiliar, complexity, simplicity, disciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, authenticity, hybridity, and so on, all of which is to encourage a sense of full spectrumness rather than an either-orness, but just all of these different high contrast ideas being points along a continuum that I think are really important to, for us to keep in mind as we think about how to have high potential impact on creativity and the experience of audiences in the future. So also extending that idea into things you've already heard today about hyper-flexibility, thinking of the university mission rather than a three-part siloed combination of research and teaching and engagement or service, thinking about a blending of those missions, keeping in mind that classroom, laboratory, public square, and local pubness can be something that adds up in a compounded way as opposed to individualized way. The idea that physical proximity really does matter, that in addition to transparency, luminosity is a characteristic that we would like to embrace and pursue. The idea of no-browness, that is to say, it's not about being highbrow or lowbrow or middlebrow. It's about full spectrum brownness, so to speak, and of course sustainability being a very important matter. And just to run very quickly further forward here, we look at everything that we are doing right now as prototyping the facility and the combination of the old and the new together that we look for. We look to elevate production and the people involved with production to a co-equal, co-creative status alongside the other creative team members around artistry of the future. We feel that it's very important for us to think about establishing an institute for advanced production where people who are really looking to support artists and co-create along with artists from the production side of things, having a place where they can train, be inspired by, and inspire others. And thanks to the tremendous institutions such as the Doris Duke Foundation and the Mellon Foundation, we've been able to run various experiments that are helping us move along that direction. Nothing matters more, I don't think, than recognizing and celebrating the infinitely diverse approaches that artists take to creating new work, and finding ways to embrace that and to cherish the opportunity to work alongside artists in that incredibly diverse set of manners. Valuing our audiences as research assistants in the development of new work, valuing dramaturgy, more broadly speaking, than it normally is considered, how to contribute to unleashing the potential of undergraduate research through experiential learning, working alongside artists in the creation of new work. And then finally, simply embracing the fact that the non-physical environment that psychologically envelops the physical spaces really does matter in terms of the quality of experiences that visiting artists and others can have when they come to a place to focus on the creation of new work. There's so much that does matter besides the actual physical facility. So all of these projects that have been discussed today, the whole idea of this this convening I see as it's one of those big swings that are necessary to take when you're interested in addressing big problems and tearing down big barriers. So thanks.